What if the secret to eternal youth wasn't hidden in a mythical fountain or a legendary philosopher's stone? What if humanity's age-old quest to conquer death found its answer not in magic, but in biology, drifting silently and unseen in our planet's oceans? There's a creature so minuscule it can rest on your pinky nail, so translucent it's nearly invisible. It appears fragile, insignificant, a mere speck in the vastness of the sea. Yet this humble animal has achieved what pharaohs, emperors, and modern billionaires have only dreamed of: the ability to live forever. This is the story of Turritopsis dohrnii, the immortal jellyfish, and its incredible secret, encoded in its very genes, could hold the key to our own future. How does it achieve this biological miracle? What is the cellular engine that allows it to turn back its own biological clock? And what can this tiny creature teach us about aging, disease, and perhaps even the nature of life itself? The story of this monumental discovery begins not in a state-of-the-art genetics lab, but with a simple, forgotten dish on a dusty shelf. We're in the 1980s, on the sun-drenched Italian Riviera. Two young students, Christian Sommer and Giorgio Bavistrello, are conducting routine research on hydrozoans, a class of small, predatory marine animals closely related to true jellyfish. Their days consist of collecting samples from the sea and watching them in the lab. They observe the life cycle unfold: stationary, plant-like polyps on the seafloor budding off tiny, free-swimming jellyfish known as medusae. It was painstaking, everyday science. Then, in a moment of scientific serendipity, a jar containing a collection of these newly released medusae was neglected. Left uncleaned and forgotten over a weekend, biology dictated what should happen next. Without food or proper care, the delicate medusae should have simply died, their bodies decaying at the bottom of the jar. When Sommer and Bavistrello finally returned to the jar, they expected to find exactly that: a tiny aquatic graveyard. Instead, they were met with an impossible sight, a biological paradox that defied everything they knew. The bottom of the jar was not littered with death, but teeming with new life. It was covered in a fresh carpet of brand new polyps. They were stunned. It was as if a flock of butterflies, upon reaching the end of their lives, had not perished, but had instead transformed back into a writhing mass of caterpillars. The adult jellyfish, faced with their own demise, had simply refused to die. They had aged in reverse, hitting the reset button on their entire existence and starting their life cycle all over again. This accidental observation, born from a moment of inattention, was the first glimpse into one of the most profound biological discoveries of our time. To truly grasp how radical this is, you have to understand the standard, unyielding life cycle that governs nearly all of its relatives. For almost every other jellyfish, life is a one-way street, a linear progression from birth to reproduction and, inevitably, to death. This journey begins when adult male and female medusae release their gametes, sperm and eggs, into the water. A fertilized egg develops into a tiny, free-swimming larva known as a planula. Propelled by microscopic hairs, this larva drifts for days, a vulnerable passenger in the ocean's plankton. If it survives, it finds a hard surface, a rock, a ship's hull, a dock piling, and undergoes a dramatic transformation. It anchors itself and becomes a polyp, a stalk-like creature that looks more like a tiny sea anemone. This polyp stage is an asexual reproduction factory. It can create copies of itself, forming an entire colony of genetically identical clones, all interconnected by feeding tubes. Finally, when conditions are right, the polyp develops horizontal grooves and begins to bud off tiny, immature jellyfish. Each one grows into the familiar bell-shaped adult medusa. This adult form reaches sexual maturity, releases its own gametes to start the cycle anew, and then, its biological purpose fulfilled, it withers and dies. This is the universal endpoint. Turritopsis dohrnii follows this same path. Egg, larva, polyp, medusa, it grows, it matures, it reproduces. But at the very moment it should face its demise, it has an escape hatch. When confronted with a mortal threat, be it the stress of starvation, a sudden change in water temperature, physical injury from a predator, or simply the biological decay of old age, it can initiate its stunning reversal. It's crucial to understand this doesn't make it invincible. A fish can still eat it, a disease can still infect it. Its immortality is not a shield from a violent death, but a perfect escape from a natural one. When the trigger is pulled, it hits the reset button in a truly remarkable way. The process is a rapid, controlled deconstruction of itself. The adult jellyfish's bell-shaped body begins to contract and fold inward. Its dozens of tentacles are reabsorbed back into the main body. It loses its ability to swim and sinks to the ocean floor, transforming into what scientists describe as a seemingly featureless blob of tissue and inert, protective cyst. But this blob is not a tomb, it is a crucible of rebirth. Inside this cyst, a biological miracle is unfolding. Over the next 24 to 72 hours, the disorganized cells begin to reorganize. Root-like structures called stolons sprout out, anchoring the cyst. From this new base, a brand new, genetically identical polyp grows, ready to mature and release new medusae. To truly appreciate this, imagine a butterfly, old and with tattered wings. But instead of dying, it lands, curls its wings, and its body transforms back into a chrysalis. Days later, a caterpillar emerges from that chrysalis, ready to eat, grow, and become a butterfly once more. This is the power of Turritopsis dohrnii, a cycle it can potentially repeat forever. The engine behind this miracle is a rare and powerful cellular process called transdifferentiation. This is the biological mechanism that drives its rejuvenation, a form of cellular alchemy that defies the normal rules of development. In most complex animals, including humans, a cell's fate is locked in. Once a cell becomes specialized, a skin cell, a muscle cell, a neuron, its identity is permanent. This is called terminal differentiation, but Turritopsis dohrnii shatters this fundamental rule. During its reversal, its specialized cells can change their identity. A striated muscle cell from its swimming bell, a highly specialized cell type, can be reprogrammed to become a completely different type of cell, like a nerve cell or an epithelial skin cell in the new polyp. The entire organism rebuilds itself not from primitive stem cells, but by repurposing its existing, mature cells. Recent genetic studies have finally unlocked its toolkit for immortality. A landmark 2020 study by researchers at the University of Oviedo in Spain did something brilliant. They sequenced the entire genome of Turritopsis dohrnii and compared it to that of its close relative, Turritopsis rubra, a jellyfish that looks almost identical but is mortal. It cannot reverse its life cycle. This comparison revealed the immortal jellyfish's secrets. The scientists found that T. dohrnii has amplifications, essentially extra copies of genes associated with DNA repair and protection. It possesses double the number of certain genes that guard against cellular damage compared to its mortal cousin, giving it a vastly superior system for fixing errors in its genetic code. Furthermore, the study identified unique mutations that help it preserve its telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that naturally shorten as we age. During the reversal, it activates a whole suite of genes related to pluripotency, effectively reopening developmental pathways that are permanently closed in most adult animals. It doesn't just rewind time, it meticulously repairs and rebuilds its biological systems from the ground up. This unique ability has had another surprising consequence. It has made the immortal jellyfish a silent invader. Originally described from the Mediterranean Sea, it is now found in temperate and tropical waters across the planet. Its primary vehicle for this global expansion is believed to be the ballast water of large ocean-going ships. For most planktonic creatures, a long journey in the dark, food-scarce belly of a ship would be a death sentence. But for Turritopsis dohrnii, these harsh conditions are the very triggers for its rejuvenation. The stress forces it to revert to its resilient polyp stage on the inner surface of the tank. When the ballast water is discharged in a new harbor, a ready-made colony is released, perfectly positioned to colonize an entirely new ocean basin. So, What does this all mean for us? The immortal jellyfish will not grant us eternal life. Its biology is far too different from our own. We will not be creating a serum from its cells to make us live forever. But it offers something potentially more valuable, a blueprint. A blueprint for resilience, for cellular repair, and for controlled regeneration that could revolutionize medicine. The ultimate goal of this research is not to extend our lifespan indefinitely, but to extend our health span, the period of our lives spent in good health, free from chronic disease. Perhaps its most profound lesson is its deep connection to one of humanity's most feared diseases, cancer. Cancer is, in a way, a twisted bid for immortality. It arises when our own cells break the rules, they lose their specialized identity, they reactivate developmental pathways, and they proliferate without end. They are attempting what the jellyfish has perfected, but their attempt is chaotic, uncontrolled, and destructive to the organism as a whole. The jellyfish, however, harnesses these same powerful abilities: reprogramming, proliferation, developmental plasticity, but it does so with exquisite, perfect control. It knows precisely when to start the process, which cellular changes to make, and most importantly, when to stop. Therefore, it is not just a model for regeneration. It is a model for the perfect tumor suppressor. By studying its mastery, we might learn how to impose control on our own cells when they go rogue. The ultimate goal, then, isn't to make humans live forever, but to help us live healthier for longer. The immortal jellyfish reminds us that even in the simplest of creatures, in the dark and silent depths of our own planet, nature has hidden some of the most complex and profound secrets. It stands as a testament to the endless possibilities of life, a tiny, translucent marvel that, by teaching us how it cheats death, might just help us learn how to better heal ourselves. Like and subscribe, stay curious, Curious Clan.